from commissioners. Raton Waterworks, Mr. Chavez.
Raton Waterworks met on November 15th, 2016. We discussed the Lake Maloya is still holding mostly full. It's only 2 feet below spillway, which is outstanding for this time of year. And we still have inflow going into the lake from the tributaries. The Lake Dorothy Spillway project is almost completed. The last pour was Friday the 18th. Just cleanup and reclamation needed to complete the overall project. And work began on the pre-sedimentation building project at Cimarron and will be completed in mid-December with weather understanding. Segerstrom Creek project is 99% complete with just reseeding as they back out of the area. And we discussed the 40-year water plan and the Lake Maloya hydrology report. We approved the financial report, and we're informed that Bonnie Sanchez has started training as a new billing clerk, and she will be replacing Carol Garcia, who's retiring at the end of December. That's all I have.
Thank you. Raton Public Service.
Raton Public Service Company Board meeting was held on October 26, 2016. Report of financials and statistical information was presented to the board by Assistant Manager, Chief Financial Officer Sandy Chavez. RPS General Manager Robert Walton II gave the board an update on the new Unit 6 progression, which has been in wiring and piping process of the new unit. All this could be completed by mid to end of November, which will be followed by testing and checks. Commissioning could be held in mid-February if all goes well. A tour of the new Unit 6 building and the old plant was scheduled for the board on Saturday the 5th of November. It was an exciting and knowledgeable tour. That's all I have on that.
That it? Sorry. Senior Center Board, Mr. Chavez.
The Raton Senior Citizen Board met on 11/15/2016. They discussed personnel policies, termination and reassignment policies, and cell phone usage. Discussed and approved the financials. And Mrs. Coker procured a slope prints grant for $8,660 to be used for no kitchen equipment, and discussed commodities distribution going back to the Colfax County. That's all I have. Is there anything else?
That's pretty much it, Ron. Thank you. Planning and Zoning Commission, Mrs. Schuster.
Planning and Zoning will meet tomorrow night, November 23rd.
And you're up for Housing Authority.
That's right. Who met on November 15th. Their most exciting news is they gave out some school, actually Halloween trick-or-treat bags that were pretty darn cool to all the kids. They also have finished their work with Stoven, who are replacing doors. They do have some new work that includes replacing some back porches, some power line replacement, sewer line replacement, and some cabinet replacement in some units. They're also looking at redoing several bathroom in the units. They did a trial run with bath fitters who worked on 2 different units as a trial. And they also reviewed their state housing authority financial statement and audit, which they did have one small finding that they've already corrected. Their next meeting will, I don't have a date for the next meeting, but it's
In the future.
3rd Tuesday of the month.
It'll be the 19th, I think.
Yeah, I
That's
think you're
the
right.
same as ours.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Airport Advisory Board, Mr. Chavez.
No report.
ET Zoning Commission, we had a meeting scheduled, but it was postponed. North Central New Mexico Economic Development District, Mayor.
No report.
Library Advisory Board, Commissioner Giacomo.
The library board meeting was scheduled for, well, it was canceled and scheduled next Tuesday for November 29th.
ETZ Zoning Authority, Mayor.
No report.
Financial Advisory Board, Mr. Chavez.
The Financial Advisory Board met on 11/17 at the swimming pool at the aquatic park, and we heard a report on Parks and Rec Director Jared Chatterley. He informed us on what was going on, the new flagpoles at Legion Park, and the report on the aquatic center. Reviewed the financial report and approved for presentation to this commission this evening. That's it.
Thank you. And that concludes all the reports. Mayor, I'll let you take
Since I
over.
have something.
Since you have it now, you can run with it.
Okay. The next item of business is the approval of the November 8th regular commission meeting minutes.
And Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for Tuesday, November 8th, 2016.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular commission meeting for November 8th, 2016 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. A public hearing is our next item of business. It's for the New Mexico Code of Ordinances, Chapter 33, City Personnel Policies, Section 28, Collective Bargaining, providing for Labor Management Relation Board and other revisions. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this?
And Mayor, if I could start out, I'll
Sure.
give you a little recap of what this item is about. And you'll remember back in our October meeting that we looked at a settlement agreement, which all of you have there in front of you, which was executed in 2013 between the City of Raton and International Association of Firefighters, Local 2378. And there were a number of issues in this settlement agreement that resulted from two prohibited practices complaints that IAFF had filed with the State Personnel Board. So the settlement agreement settled those prohibited practices complaints, and one of the issues in the agreement is that the changes to the personnel ordinance would be made. And commissioners, you have the proposed changes here in front of you as well. This is an existing ordinance, and Section 28 dealing with collective bargaining is an existing section in the personnel ordinance. And you see the changes marked in red. And primarily, the change would establish a labor management relations board in which items relating to collective bargaining would go to the labor management relations board. At present, the ordinance sends that to the personnel board. And so we would split that duty up. So you have those proposed changes in front of you. And as well, you have an analysis from Thomas J. Griego, the Executive Director of the PLRB. And it's a multiple page analysis of the proposed agreement and the change to the city's personnel ordinance. And the conclusion is that that would not constitute a substantial change, and that would not change Raton's grandfather status with the State Personnel Board regarding these proposed changes that you have in front of you.
Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, we can go ahead with the, either deliberate or act on this New Mexico Code of Ordinances.
Madam Mayor, going over the settlement agreement and the collective bargaining and the changes. And I see that we complied with what the settle agreement said about making the changes. And so I make a motion that we pass the code of ordinance as given to us.
All right.
I'll second.
It's unanimous.
I'll third.
We have a motion and a second to accept the New Mexico Code of Ordinances, Chapter 33, City Personnel Policies, Section 28, Collective Bargaining, providing for Labor Management Relations Board and other revisions. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Schuster?
Yes.
Commissioner Giacomo?
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sagata?
Yes.
Mayor Mets?
Yes, motion passes. Deliberate and act on juvenile justice program budget adjustment. Antonucci?
Mayor and Commission, in your packet this evening is a line item adjustment for the juvenile justice program. This adjustment is needed because they've seen an increase in referrals from the restorative justice program. So the proposal is to move $5,000 from the Girls Circle line item and then allocate it amongst the 3 restorative justice line items that we have. Is there any questions?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the budget adjustment for the juvenile justice program.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the juvenile justice program budget adjustment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on resolution 2016-50, budget adjustment number 5, fiscal year ending 17.
Mayor and Commission, Tricia, I believe, gave you a corrected budget adjustment. I did have to make a couple corrections. Under the fire grants, there was a line item there for $5,000 forestry management. I intended to take that out so that the increase in the revenue and the expense would balance. So that was on the original resolution that you had in your packet. And then also I changed the description under the fire fund. The fire department has been awarded a $100,000 grant through the State Fire Marshal's office, and this is to make improvements to Station 1, and I incorrectly listed it as the Fire Training Center.
Yeah.
So it should be for Station 1.
Which is which station?
The chief is here. So that would be our main, the station next to the Schuler Theater. Other than that, the gate at the airport has been completed. The quote did come in just a little bit higher than the match that we had originally approved during our budget process, so we are asking for a slight increase there in the city's match. That does come out of the general fund and goes into the capital projects. And then also the award for the state library grant was finalized, and it was $206 higher than what we had budgeted. So I'm just making that adjustment as well. So if there's questions, if there's no questions, I'd recommend approval.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2016-50, budget adjustment 5 for the fiscal year 17.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2016-50, budget adjustment number 5, fiscal year ending 17. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on resolution 2016-51, October 2016 financial report.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet is our financial report that has been reconciled as of October 31st. You'll see that our available cash less our 1/12 reserve is $731,387.82. I did make a note. We have zeroed out as of last month the balance that was designated towards the street fund gross receipts tax, and that was the balance was utilized on the Downtown Avenue resurfacing project. When I did compile this report on Friday, we hadn't received the tax and revenue report yet, but you will also have in the packet behind your financial report is the November gross receipts tax report. I also did make a note that the report that I had given you the previous month did not reflect the correct percentage. So I've corrected that on your report as well. So for October, gross receipts, our increase year-to-date per budget was actually 3.37%. And now with the distribution received in November, it's a 4.36% increase. So our check was a little over $417,000 for the month of November. So compared to last year, these comparisons, when comparing to last year, I did put a note of caution on there. It was this time last year that we had noticed some of the decline in GRT because of the hold harmless error that was occurring at tax and revenue. So I would say that doing any sort of a percentage comparison with last year wouldn't really be an accurate comparison. We did not receive that additional revenue until February of last year. So that kind of will throw off those comparison figures for a few more months. But if we look at I guess it would probably throw it off in well, it shouldn't throw it off in the Raton Waterworks column. So that was showing year-to-date a 10% increase in GRT. But per what we budgeted, we're only at 4.36% above our budget projection. Other than that, we're in the process of closing out the multimodal grant. I am, as of today, sent off 2 reimbursement requests on that, and we do have a few more invoices coming in, but by next month it should be completely closed out, and we'll be able to give you an actual balance of what is available in that federal highways grant as we move forward with the depot project. Other than that, all of our departments are operating within budget, and we did have one negative balance in our special revenue, but the check came in like 2 days after the end of the month. So we have received the juvenile justice reimbursement. So I didn't transfer monies because I would have had to immediately transfer them right back. So you will see just one negative balance there for the juvenile justice. Is there any questions about the October financial report? So now going into the winter months, we're going to anticipate that our GRT will taper off slightly, but that was a really good check for the month of November.
I'll move that we approve Resolution 2016-51, October 2016 financial report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2016-51, October 2016 financial report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on Resolution 2016-52, adopt mileage rate amendment.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet is a resolution to amend our current mileage reimbursement rate, which is currently 55 cents. A few years ago, back in 2009, there was a rule that was adopted. It was House Bill 336 that gave local public bodies the ability to increase our mileage reimbursement rates to a rate that was up to an amount not to exceed the IRS mileage rate set January 1 of the previous year. So when we look at kind of the historical reimbursement for the last 5 to 6 years, the IRS rate's been going up, and I think it went up as high as 57.5 cents. So we've remained at 55 cents since 2010, but now the IRS rate from the previous January is 54 cents. So we're requesting that we amend our rate to comply with this, the intent of this change. that was passed in 2009, and to avoid any sort of audit findings, so that we're not reimbursing a rate that exceeds the IRS rate. So I am recommending that we adopt this, and it would go into effect January 1.
And then isn't part of it also that you review it every November, or we look at it every November?
Yeah, I'm
Off
gonna
the top of my
start
head, so-
reviewing it every November. Like I said, the past few years, the IRS rate continued to go up, and we just kept it at 55. But if it's gonna be kind of a yo-yo up and down, then yeah, we definitely wanna monitor it
Yeah, usually it goes up.
so that we can remain in compliance and avoid any type of audit findings, because this is one of the areas that they do test mileage and per diem every year.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2016-52, adult mileage rate amendment.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2016-52, mileage rate amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Deliberate and act on lease agreement between the City of Raton and Lamar Billboards. Mr. Berry or Michael Mann?
Mayor and Commission, if you remember back to last meeting, we talked about a specific billboard which is located south of Hereford Avenue, and it's intended to attract attention from northbound I-25 traffic. And that billboard is on city property, and the lease that allowed it to be on city property had expired. But in the package of advertising that we did with Lamar prior to that, it was one of those billboards that we agreed to advertise on for 2 years. So our choices there are we could change that and pick a different billboard, or we could look at maintaining this billboard. So what we've done is, and Michael Ann has taken the lead on that, is talk to Lamar Outdoor Advertising about that billboard. And here they have made an offer to you to pay you $500 a year lease rate, which is increased from what we had previously. For the 2-year rate, they would really like to talk you into agreeing to maintaining that for a 5-year period. As you remember, we talked about at some point in the past, there was a feeling that we would just eliminate all billboards from city property. I think this is the last remaining billboard, maybe the one at Armex building, and I'm not sure that the terms on that, but it's really come to the commission for your determination whether you would like to get rid of this billboard immediately, the 2-year, the 5-year, what you would like to do. I would state it's fairly inexpensive advertising for the city. If you take the difference between the lease income that we're getting from it and the cost of maintaining a new vinyl on that billboard. So we give it to the commission for your consideration.
I have a question. They offered us $500 a year for the 2-year lease. Would it be the $500 a year for the 5-year?
Yeah, initially he emailed me, and what's in your packet is a contract with a 5-year term. So then I immediately emailed him back and said at our last meeting, the discussion was that you were willing to consider a 2-year, and would the price be different? So I wanted him to give me 2 different lease agreements, and that's why he emailed me back and said a $500 a year 2-year lease, it would be the same rate. But he did, I think he did note there was a benefit, of course, to a longer-term lease, but so the agreement would be the same. We would just change the term depending on what you approve this evening.
Can I make a motion to approve the lease agreement between the City of Raton and Lamar Billboards?
For 2
For
or
what,
For the
5?
5-year?
5-year term? Okay,
I'll second.
okay. I would like to see us not be leasing land for the city, but let the public enterprises take that over. And I would agree to the 2-year, because I think we have to because of the contract. But I would speak against the 5, because I'd like to see that we get out of that business and let the general public take that over.
Would they then move the billboard?
They'd have to move it.
Mm.
They'd have to move it to private property.
I'll make my motion to stand.
It will, it does. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to accept the lease agreement between the City of Raton and Lamar Billboards for 5 years. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Schuster?
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez?
Yes.
Commissioner Giacomo?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Segata?
Yes.
Mayor Met?
No. Motion passes. Deliberate and act on appointment to city boards. Lodgers Tax Board. We have one applicant, Lori Bunker.
Is she already on another board?
Mayor and Commission, Mrs. Bunker was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Board. She did apply, it was after her application and appointment that we lost a member of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. And since that time, we've lost a second member of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. So there is a state statute that applies to this board that 2 members have to be from the lodging industry, and then 2 members have to be from a tourism-related industry, and then you can have a 5th member who doesn't necessarily have to be from either one. So it is convenient that we get here. Mrs. Bunker is the owner of the Raton Pass Inn, a lodger, to meet that requirement. So we were very happy to get Mrs. Bunker's application. That's a tough requirement to fill. And we will be looking for an additional member to the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board.
And then she'll go off. Will she stay on the other one also?
See, there's not a problem with serving on both. She could certainly serve on both.
Okay.
That would be up to her, I think, but,
Make a motion to accept Mrs. Bunker's application for the board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept Lori Bunker's application to the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mrs. Bunker, you are appointed to the Lodgers Tax Board. We also have an application for the extraterritorial zoning by Rick Neuater.
and Mayor and Commission, if I could review this real quickly, the Extraterritorial Zoning Commission has not met for a couple of years, and there are requirements on this commission as well. This board does exist through a joint powers agreement between the city and Colfax County. And in that joint powers agreement, and this is the terms coming from a state statute that authorizes extraterritorial zoning, the city commission would appoint 2 members to the extraterritorial zoning commission. The county commission would appoint 2 members. And then that board would find a 5th member who resides outside of the extraterritorial zone. So there are requirements on this commission. There is a little business to cover for the commission. You previously appointed 1 member, and we have actively searched for an additional member. So this would be the 2nd member that the commission had appointed and meet our requirement.
I'll move to accept Rick Neurotter as for the Board of Extraterritorial Zoning.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Rick Neurotter to the ETZ Zoning Board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Rick, you are appointed to the ETZ Zoning Board. City Manager's report.
Mayor and Commission, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the volunteer group Spark, they go by the acronym Spark. We've had contact with them. It's a group of volunteers that state their mission is just to make Raton a better community, and they're actively volunteering. You'll remember at the last meeting we discussed this group painting the caboose at the Welcome Center, plus the signal arm at the Welcome Center. And tonight they have prepared a Thanksgiving dinner for first responders and emergency personnel. That's being held at the Convention Center. And the City Commission was invited to that Thanksgiving dinner, but I did express that it was being held at 6 o'clock in the City Commission meeting. So Spark has delivered Thanksgiving dinner
that's
to
where that came
the
from.
commission. And so I want to acknowledge that it really makes a tremendous difference in town when we get people like this that are looking to make the community a better place. I really appreciate what they're doing, and thanks for the meal. And thanks for acknowledging our first responders as well. They want to say thanks and acknowledge their efforts. I would note that St. Joseph's Church 10 days ago did have a special mass for police, fire, first responders, and emergency personnel, and then they also had a dinner for those first responders, and it was very well attended by City of Raton personnel, and that included dispatch as well. So we appreciate the people that say thanks to our first responders, and we appreciate our first responders for representing the City of Raton very well at these functions. I did attend the Municipal Officials Leadership Institute program in Santa Fe on November 7th, along with Jason Phillips. We were asked to give a presentation in conjunction with New Mexico Main Street on our downtown revitalization project, so we did attend that and provided that to the Molly Group. I have met with several personnel from the New Mexico Environment Department, their Groundwater Quality Bureau, Superfund Oversight Section. They're in town conducting a site inspection and putting together a monitoring plan to monitor groundwater contamination. And they have asked for our concurrence to monitor groundwater in the area of the Interstate 25 frontage road and Folsom Avenue. Folsom Avenue is a road that's not improved, and it's generally located behind Hooter Brown's truck stop. So with your concurrence, I'll agree to that, and they'll, for a period of time, monitor for chlorinated solvents. And there is a contamination in a plume in that area. So I do plan on approving that access. I did have a telephone conversation with a gentleman from Amtrak. He's located in Washington, D.C., and he called in regard to the status of our depot. And BNSF had coordinated the conveyance agreement and the lease agreement that we had considered earlier with Amtrak, but apparently has not made it to the proper people. So I did provide that to Amtrak. They, I think, very favorable to the city's involvement in the depot, and will provide their concurrence with those agreements. I would expect that shortly, and then allow us to go forward with the project. And I would like to, again, thank Chris Valentini for all of her efforts, and note that Robin Osborne has joined the team in the accounts payable position, and Chris will actually stay with us through the end of November for cross-training there. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before this board commission? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.